Hey everybody, this is Alex. Welcome back to Sports the Nemo Way. Here we are with our trade deadline special. The trade deadline went down yesterday, and we wanted to come in here and show you guys an episode just talking about all the trades and moves, a little bit of breakup of the monotony of debating players. So here we are. We're going to start it off with a trade that happened a couple of days before the deadline, actually, but it was a trade that actually involved a contender. The Bucks traded DJ Augustine, DJ Wilson, both DJs, and two firsts for PJ Tucker. Excuse me on the name here. Rodines Carutes, and a first and a second. So essentially, they swapped first, and one team got a first and one team got a second. So the players are the main building blocks of this. But the Bucks receive PJ Tucker is, I guess, the biggest name in this trade. So we don't have a Bucks fan or a Houston fan in our midst, but I just figured we'd all give our opinions on this trade and see what everybody thinks. I'll just go around the room here and kick it over to Wade. Wade, what were your thoughts when you first saw this trade?
Well, obviously the Bucks are one of the top tier teams in the East. So this was important, but I think the big question is: are we getting PJ Tucker of a year or two ago, or the PJ Tucker that sucked ass all season? Because he's been terrible this year, but he's also been on a team that's trying to lose. So I don't really know if he's just not caring so far this season, or he is getting older. He has been a player that's been defensive minded and guarded bigger guys, so big toll on the body. But if they get PJ Tucker of a year or two ago, who's a great defender, great corner three shooter, that's huge because you need all the shooting you can get around Giannis to spread the floor. And they're already a really good defensive team, and you add another top tier defensive player they're going to have to probably play the Nets eventually if they want to get to where they want to go. And so you got to stop the three-headed monster of Kyrie, Harden, and Durant, and PJ Tucker would be a very important piece of that if he's PJ Tucker. So
Yeah, like you mentioned, PJ Tucker is getting ready to turn 36 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what you're saying is you hope he pulls a James Harden, and he was just not trying in Houston, and he'll show up and be a ball out again.
Yeah. I think that's what the Milwaukee's hoping for. He's had a rough year, but I'm pretty sure Houston literally just got done losing like 20 straight games.
Yeah, they just got done
So
losing 20
I'm not
straight.
sure if he really cares. So, but he might care now. So
The way Houston's been managing their roster this year, it's probably a little hard for him to, after what he's been going through with going to the playoffs routinely,
yeah,
going back to a contender might just rejuvenate him because he is an excellent defender
Yeah.
when he wants to be.
because he just spent 3-4 straight years of them. Obviously, they didn't win a title, but they were contenders.
They're making
So-
deep playoff runs
Yeah,
every year.
second round Western Conference Finals every year, something like that. Yeah,
And I believe I saw somewhere the other day that he's made the most corner threes in the NBA over the last 3 years, something like that. He potentially could be a great fit beside Giannis. They've been playing Giannis at the 5 a lot more. So if you put PJ Tucker at the 4, and he can stand in the corner like he did with Harden on offense, and then play tough-minded defense and help Giannis on the boards on the other end, on both ends, I guess. That could be a great pickup as long as he's not washed, like you mentioned. But putting more shooters around Giannis is always the plan in Milwaukee, or at least always should be the plan because he can't shoot.
think we'll have. Let's say he does start. You'll have Holiday, Middleton, Giannis, or Tucker, whichever one you want to put the 3 and the 4, and then Lopez. Correct? Am I missing somebody? Is that good? That's all can shoot the ball outside of Giannis. They're all pretty good defenders, honestly. Lopez might be a little to be desired in spots, but the rest of them are anywhere from good to great defenders. That'd be pretty deadly.
I mean, it'd be a great defensive team. I mean, so many guys over the years have said Drew Holiday is the best defensive player in the league. And other players say that. Paul George just said it 2 days ago.
Yeah, that never gets noticed.
And then Middleton's a good defender. Giannis is a good defender. Lopez is a good shot blocker. Good low post defender. The other part of it is they've been starting DiVincenzo with the 2 before the trade. So maybe PJ Tucker does come off the bench and just gives them 15, 20 minutes a night, or at least until he can get in shape or get acquainted with the team or whatever he needs to maybe get back into form. But Ray, what was your thoughts when you first saw the trade?
I mean, I've seen PJ Tucker play a few times. I'm not real familiar with him. I'm probably more familiar with DJ Augustine, with him being, had a stint in Indiana. I mean, it was a decent stint. It wasn't, great, but the Bucks really didn't give up anybody. DJ Augustine really hadn't had a great season since the Bobcats. So I mean, they kind of, got out of there pretty much scot-free. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe DJ Augustine, flips the switch. Not, but
well, as an Orlando Magic fan, and DJ Augustine spent the last 4 seasons in Orlando, I don't think there's much of a switch to flip.
right.
He's a solid point guard who can run a team, run an offense, and just is a complete turnstile on defense. Like that's who he is. He's a good shooter. He's patient. He runs the offense. He moves the ball. He does his thing offensively. I'm not knocking that. I liked him when he came off the bench for Orlando, not when as a starter. When he could come off the bench and just provide steadiness for the second unit, I thought that was all right. But he's not been good in Milwaukee this year. So yeah, I don't think they can.
Well, he's always been a hit and miss player. It's either he's got a flow or it's just he's not hitting anything.
I agree.
Funny part was well, I guess he did start a little bit off and on for you guys, but some people kind of joke around that sometimes these backup guards have these great contract years, and then you get the old DJ Augustine treatment, which is like almost $10 million a year being a backup point guard, which I think he got from U-All a couple years ago. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he just signed 3 years, $21 million with the Bucks at the beginning of the season.
God.
I mean, to get off that contract, I think was a positive for the Bucks. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I mean, because I think PJ Tucker's only making like $6 million, which is less than DJ Augustine.
Which is crazy because he's been good for a while.
So, Drew, what were your thoughts when you saw the PJ Tucker move?
I thought it was a good trade for the Bucks. I think PJ Tucker is going to come back to a contender, and he's going to go back to form how he was when the Rockets were contenders. He'll be a good shooter for the Bucks to give Giannis another when he's driving another person to kick out, especially if he's standing in the corners.
Yeah, well, I saw somebody say the other day, I can't remember who it was, somebody at the Ringer said, even if PJ Tucker is completely washed up and doesn't contribute, just getting off of DJ Augustine's contract was such a positive for them that it's a positive no matter what happens with PJ Tucker. Because PJ Tucker is also a free agent at the end of the year, so he'll come off the books, and you got rid of another 2 years of DJ Augustine. So let's flip the switch here. What is Houston doing with this move? Are they just getting rid of a guy that's irritated in the locker room and taking back whatever they can get, I guess? Because they took money back. What Uncle Doug, what do you think Houston was doing?
I'm not really sure what Houston's doing at this point. They seem to have kind of unloaded everybody. They've excuse me here, look at my notes. If I was in Houston, like Tucker, I'd be frustrated. I mean, you go from perennial power to the 20-game losing streak, and then they start moving players around. And really, if you're getting draft picks from Milwaukee, that's not going to amount to much because they're winning. Those draft picks are going to be way down the list.
I mean, the 20s, mid to high 20s.
And some of their previous trades, they've unloaded a lot of their draft picks anyway. So I'm not sure what Houston's going to end up doing.
Houston does seem to be a mess at this point. I mean, we're going to talk about Houston again over some more of these trades that are going to happen or not happen, or that happened or didn't happen. I mean, going back to the Harden trade. I mean, the Harden trade looks worse every time we see something. I mean, I don't know what. This might be the worst superstar trade we've ever seen. That Houston got nothing out of this. They do have some picks coming their way, but they're from New Jersey.
Right.
And they're going to be awful picks anyway. It's going to be top.
I mean, a couple of them come in 26 and 27, so maybe these guys are done by then. But are you really counting on 6 years from now getting a nice draft pick to turn this around? Are you going to wait 6 years for that?
Do you want 6 more years of a 20-game losing streak?
And why did you insist that you get Oladipo and that the younger, cheaper option of Karis LeVert go to Indiana?
Right. Yeah.
Especially when you just turned around and traded Oladipo.
Right. And what did they get for
Yeah.
Oladipo? They got
Trash. They got Avery
Bradley.
Bradley and Kelly Olynyk
Yeah, right.
and a second rounder.
So you got Bradley and DJ Augustine that play the same position. So now they've traded for both those guys.
And neither one of them are young. Neither one of them are building blocks for the future.
Right. So
Are
what's
these-
the point?
Are these all contracts they can get off of real quick? Is that the game plan?
I mean, Augustine's isn't. I don't know.
You said 3 years into.
I don't know what Brad. I could look.
It would kind of make sense if they're just getting these older guys that they are going to be off the books in a year or two, and they can completely have a ton of money. I guess they'll have draft picks, not great draft picks, but some draft picks, and then kind of do their own thing for a few years. But I don't know the contract situation to be specific.
Kelly Olynyk comes off the books after this season. He's making $12
Okay.
million this year, and he's done at the end of this season.
That makes some sense.
DJ Augustine has 2 more years at $7 million, like I said, and Avery Bradley makes $5 million this year and has a team option for $6 million next year, which I assume that the
Okay.
Rockets will turn down, and then so both of them will probably be free
Yeah.
agents at the end of the season.
So that makes some sense. They can drop them off the books.
So what they're saying is for James Harden, we got cap relief, some bad picks now, and some potentially good picks 6-7 years from now. That's what you get for one of the best players in all of basketball.
Who's making them look really dumb right now?
Right. And like we said, Karis LeVert, who obviously has had the cancer problem, which was found later. We didn't know that at the time. But he's come back and played 2 games now and looked very good, just like he did before.
Yeah.
And Jared Allen has been balling in Cleveland since he got traded there. And it's like both these guys are young and cheap, or relatively cheap. You could have both of them playing for you, but no, you insisted on getting Oladipo and what? And the other part of this is too, not that I want to rehash the whole Harden trade, but Philadelphia offered you Ben Simmons.
You could definitely build your team around in the future.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a building block. Somebody to start with.
So really, in the long run, since they pushed for Oladipo, in the long run, they traded James Harden for Kelly Olynyk and DJ Augustine
And Avery Bradley.
and Avery Bradley.
And a potential picks in 2026,
So
2027.
That's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you're going into this complete rebuild like this, then why is Eric Gordon still there? Maybe you can't find a trade for his giant ass contract, but why is John Wall still there?
well, the John,
And why? And at the beginning of the year, this is the guy I feel most sorry for. Christian Wood signed there at the beginning of the year to be the next stretch big to play with James Harden, and James Harden threw his temper tantrum, got shipped out of town. Now PJ Tucker's gone. They've lost 20 straight games. And Christian Wood, before he got hurt, because he was hurt most of the 20-game losing streak, he's back now. But he was averaging like 23 and 12 before he got hurt, and now he's there all by himself with John Wall, and and they're losing all these games, and I just feel bad for Christian Wood. Like, you're 25, you're playing the best basketball of your life, and you signed a long-term contract with Houston to play with James Harden, and now
He's gone.
he's gone.
They got very little in return.
Yeah,
was a huge John Wall fan. I feel bad for John Wall.
Yeah.
And he's come back from his injury pretty well. He's averaging 20 a game, 6 assists.
is John Wall in a better or worse situation now?
I would say maybe a smidge bit worse because I feel like Houston is. I don't know. Washington. I don't know. That's tricky. I don't know.
They're not much better.
They both suck.
I mean, Bradley Beal is the best player on either one of these teams. I mean, Bradley Beal is better than Christian Wood. But dude, if Wall is still there, is he gonna play much better than Westbrook, or is he playing so much better than Westbrook that they're really good? I don't see that.
I would at least say Wall and Beal have at least had played with each other for a long time. Over time, became really good friends. They at least have chemistry together, which I don't think Westbrook and Beal have. That might have been a plus, familiarity. I can't talk. Yeah, I think Wall liked it in Washington, so I think overall maybe Washington would have been a little better.
I mean, it's in the East, if nothing else.
Yeah,
That's true.
I mean, because you're gonna have to win a lot more games in the West to make the playoffs than you are to make the playoffs in the East. Although,
Do they really want to make the playoffs right now?
I mean, if you're Houston, I'd say no.
I would say if you're Houston, you want to be in the West right now.
If you're Washington, I think you have to try and make the playoffs. Otherwise, why do you have Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal?
Washington just dug themselves too big of a hole the first part of the season. Not that they're playing phenomenal recently, but they've been doing better. At least around 500 over the past month or two. But the beginning of the season, it was god awful. They dug themselves a giant hole at the beginning of the season.
Well, Russell Westbrook was complete trash at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, he was shooting like 34% or something crazy like that for the first few weeks of the season.
Then he got hurt and was out for a while. And Bradley Beal was like breaking records.
Starts dropping
30-point games and all in a row and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think he
He
has
started
most,
dropping 40 bombs all over the place.
There's some crazy stat where he had what was it? The most 40-point games that result in losses over the past 10 years or something
I
like
think
that.
so.
But now Westbrook's actually been playing really well. This guy's field goal percentage up, I think, like 43%, which obviously isn't phenomenal, but compared to what it was at the beginning of the season, it's a huge step forward. So he's being better. Beal's still killing it.
But I just heard yesterday that they lost 8 of their last 10 games.
Yeah. So they had a good stretch not that long ago where they were climbing a little bit.
But the other part of this is too, I mean, and we're kind of getting away from trades here for a second, but with these play-in games, now there's 10 teams in each conference that are battling for playoff positioning. So really 20 of the 30 teams are looking at least some sort of playoff. So teams are not giving up as easily.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But speaking of trades, let's get back on the trades a little bit. We stick with the Bucks here. The Bucks trade Torrey Craig to the Suns for cash considerations and a trade exception. So 2 contenders here. I do believe the Suns are still the 2 seed in the West, and the Bucks are the 3 seed in the East. So 2 contenders making a minor swap here. Again, no Bucks fans, no Suns fans in the room, but I guess I'll kick it over to Uncle Doug. Did you have any thoughts when you saw this?
Not really. I mean, if like you say, they're just trying to be a minor player. It's always nice to have the trade exception. Maybe they were looking at other moves to make and give you some flexibility there, but not anything ever sure.
It was nothing major. I agree with you. The only thing I could think of was, first off, Torrey Craig is a stocky wing defender. He can't score. He's a wing defender. I took it as Phoenix is looking towards the playoffs. Here's another defender we can throw at the Kawhis, the LeBrons, the Paul Georges, Michael Porter Juniors, whoever.
Good wings.
Yeah, good, especially bigger, stockier wings. Torrey Craig's put together pretty well. They already have Miles or Markel Bridge, whichever one of the Bridges they have, who's a really, really good wing defender. They have Cam Johnson, who's a nice defender. So they already have those guys who play the bulk of the minutes. I just thought Torrey Craig was a insurance policy defense-wise in the playoffs. That's what I took it as. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, though. I mean,
I think it's a little. You have a decent rotation guy to throw in there that you can use in certain situations in the playoffs, probably.
Yeah, he'll be a good defensive pickup when they get to the playoffs. When they get in those series if they go.
Worst case scenario, you can tell him, go hit the shit out of LeBron in the paint 4 or 5 times for us and try to wear him down. I mean, teams use players like that for 50 years now.
You get 5 fouls, use them. Oh, 6, my bad.
Go body
Use
him up,
them.
wear him out for a while, and then you come sit back on the bench.
Yeah. Or, I mean, if God forbid, one of your wings get injured, you have a guy that come in there and actually, has a role to play.
Yeah.
Bridges or Johnson or one of those guys does have an injury and misses some time. So we can move on from that one. The Thunder traded Trevor Ariza to the Heat for Miles Leonard, who was cut. Miles Leonard, who was cut and is now a free agent. And I've heard from multiple places that he will not be signed again. And not that I want to get too heavily into that, but I find that very interesting.
Is he the one that made the comment while playing video games?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Heat, another Eastern Conference contender, trade away Miles Leonard, a guy who was a rotation player for them last year and this year, and a stretch big for Trevor Ariza, who is, ancient at this point. But he's a 3-and-D wing, which teams seem to stock up on to go into the playoffs. But I don't know how much Trevor Ariza has left at this point.
Right. I don't think he's going to give him huge minutes. But,
No.
I mean, if he can give him a few minutes, kind of like you were talking with Phoenix, it's another backup by the wing guys.
Someone gets in foul trouble and come in.
Insurance
get him-
policy.
Get him to the.
Insurance policy.
So that's another defense for the playoffs. They're thinking he may not.
He's at least a veteran that's been there, done that, knows what he's doing, can shoot threes, which in today's NBA is super valuable.
He also makes almost $13 million this year and is a free agent at the end of the season.
Yeah, so he can come right off the books
And
then.
you want that
Yeah.
contract to expire.
Yeah.
You don't want
That's
him.
a bit much.
Yeah, you don't want him for 3 or 4 years on 13 million.
So is he taking over Haslam's spot as old guy on the corner of the bench?
Well, I mean, Haslam's still there.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah,
He's
so
been there forever.
Haslam's making $2.5 million this
It's
year.
like the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think he's the longest tenured player in the NBA at this point.
He's been in the Heat the whole time, right?
Yeah. So here's my question with the Heat. We mentioned they traded for Victor Oladipo, but we haven't really covered that trade yet. But they have Butler, Oladipo, Iguodala, Ariza, Hero, Nunn, Duncan Robinson. That's 7 wings. Where does the playing time come? And it's not like you're bumping these guys down to point guard because you have Goran Dragic running the point, who is one of your best players. So it's not like these guys are spending a ton of time down there. And even going small, you've already got undersized big men with Bam Adebayo, who's your second best player. I don't see where all the playing time's coming for these guys.
Well, what pops in my head is, one, you kind of hit on it. Today's NBA, you can play 3 of those guys at once. 2, some of those players in certain matchups you can't play. Well, I shouldn't say you can't play. You won't want to play as much. So then other players out of that group will be more valuable against certain players, or certain teams, I should say. For example, Duncan Robinson can be absolutely abused against certain teams. Obviously, you want him on the floor for his shooting, but in certain matchups, say, you're going to lean more towards Iguodala for his defense against, I'm not sure who off the top of my head, but you get what I'm saying.
I see what
things
you're
of that
saying,
nature.
and I can even kind of get behind it. But they've also kind of stocked up on some non-shooting wings. So I think Duncan Robinson is essential going forward because you have Jimmy Butler who can't shoot, Victor Oladipo that can't shoot, Andre Iguodala can't shoot. If you want to go defense, 3 of them are very good defenders, all of them, and they can all, well, at least Oladipo and Butler could score, but they're not going to do it from deep.
Yeah.
And you're big, and Adebayo can't shoot. So, I mean, you're gonna get guys packing the paint against you if you're not too careful.
I mean, Robinson was just my example of he has a giant weakness that teams can use. So you might have to, instead of him playing 30 minutes, he might play 20 minutes in a certain series, and you need more defense. Or
So, for example, they play the Nets. You might not have him play
you
as
might want
much.
Iguodala out there guarding Durant or Harden instead of Duncan Robinson. Or an example, I mean, do we really think Ariza is going to play a lot?
I don't think he's gonna play
Not
a
that
lot.
much.
No.
I mean,
I think
I'm not even sure if. I mean, I haven't really kept up with him this year, but I mean, Iguodala's pretty old.
he is.
Yeah,
and
He's been around a while.
get this, he makes 15 this year and 15 next year.
Oh my!
Which I don't really think I've watched him too much this year, so I don't know. But I would guess he's probably on his way down.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been on his way down. But
And, I mean, he's 37.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not
Right.
like he's on top of his game anymore. Not that he was bad for them last year in the bubble, but like you said, I haven't seen a ton of them. I've only seen probably 2 Heat games this year.
I just know they're getting back on track. They started out really bad,
They
but
did.
aren't they like the 4th seed now in the East? They back up 4 or
I would
5.
say at least 5.
So they climbed back up. Yeah, there for a while. They weren't even in the playoffs.
I was gonna say 5, but yeah, they're there for a while. They were like the 9 seed.
Yeah, they weren't
Not that
even-
long ago.
They're
I
the
feel.
7th seed right now.
7. We thought they were
Um,
better than what they were.
because Atlanta had won 10 straight,
oh,
and they're now the 6th seed, and the Knicks are the 5. The Hornets are the 4 seed. So,
well, LaMelo Ball just got
LaMelo's
hurt, so
hurt.
they'll
Yeah.
fall off.
well, actually,
I think they'll be all right still with Gordon Hayward and shoot.
Terry Rozier,
Yeah, that's-
Devontae
that's-
Graham. They have a nice. Here's the thing I heard earlier today is they actually take him off the floor a lot, even though he's putting up big numbers, because they play better as a team when he's not on the floor. LaMelo Ball, I mean. So, and he was getting taken off the floor a lot in fourth quarters, so they could close games. Rozier, Hayward, Graham were doing more closing with. They have the other Bridges, whichever one it is, and PJ Washington. So they have a lot of young talent. I don't think they're going to hold on to the 4 seed, mind you. I think we'll see Miami, maybe Boston, or Indiana surge to pick up one of those spots.
Boston's been a hot mess all year.
Yeah, we'll talk about them in a minute because they did make a trade. But we can move on away from Miami because they made more trades, so I'm sure we'll bring them up again. But now that brings us to the actual trade deadline. And for those of you that are wondering, the huge portion of this next section will be talking about my Orlando Magic. Not because I'm an Orlando Magic fan, because they're a large chunk of the trade deadline. So we'll just kick this off. The Orlando Magic trade Nikola Vucevic and Al-Farouq Amino to Chicago for Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and 2 first-round draft picks. Wade, what'd you think when you saw this?
I mean, part of me was. I mean, I know you're a Magic fan, so you probably didn't like it, but part of me was kind of happy for the Bulls. I mean, they're obviously not a great team, but now you got Vucevic, Levine, they have Marketing, right?
Yeah,
Marketing.
Kobe White.
Well, I'm drawing blanks here, but yeah. Now I think they could actually be a push for a lower seed in the East, like realistically. Maybe if it all meshes, obviously. You have a legit all-star, well, now 2 all-stars in the East. From the Magic side, Wendell Carter is he's supposed to have a lot of potential. I don't know how much of that is fulfilled. The 2 first-round picks is nice. I'm not too sure. Who was the other person that came back? I forgot.
Otto Porter Jr.
He's been very up and down his whole career, so I'm not sure about that.
But he makes $28 million a year, so hey,
Yikes. Yeah, you might want to get off that soon.
How many
But,
years is he on that still?
it's an expiring deal.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, you'll be
There you
right.
go. That's good. But I mean, I was kind of happy for the Bulls. They can be. It's good when the most famous teams are relevant. It seems to be. And this gives them a chance to at least be relevant with 2 all-stars in their team.
So Chicago is currently the 10 seed in the East. So if the season ended today, which it does not, obviously, But if it did, they would be in the play-in games. But adding Vucevic and Aminu, who is a nice rotation player, Drew, do you think they make a push for an actual playoff spot? Top 8.
Yeah, I think they'll sneak into an 8, maybe 7. I don't see them go much higher than that, but I think they're going to sneak in, adding Vucevic and I can think of the other guy's name. Aminu, yeah. I think they'll sneak in.
Aminu's a really good defender, correct?
He is.
Yeah.
I would say with Zach LaVine, Kobe White, and Vucevic, I think they'll sneak into an 8 spot in the East.
Well, as somebody that is a fan of the 9 seed, the Indiana Pacers, Ray, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was kind of interesting. I mean, the Bulls did a good thing for the future, but do you really want to squeak into the playoffs at a 9 seed, or not a 9 seed, but at an 8 seed or a 7 seed in the play-in games, just because? I think it's kind of pointless at this point if you're at a 10 seed and you're trying to squeak into the playoffs. Maybe they're building for the future, but kind of stay away from the playoffs this year and just let it be.
I have a quick question. Is Zach LaVine's contract up after this year?
That's something I'll have to look at.
Because for some reason, I had in the back of my head that his contract might be up, or he has some sort of option or something coming up after this season, which that might mess up their whole plan. But
Well, I think the Vucevic deal going to them for them was to keep LaVine happy. That's personally what I thought. LaVine's deal's up after next year.
next year, okay.
Uncle Doug, what did you think when you saw this?
I was shocked. I knew Orlando was going to make some moves. I expected the trade to when they moved the guard to Boston, and I knew Aaron Gordon was going somewhere, but I really thought they'd keep. I was kind of surprised that Orlando's pretty much looks like going into full rebuild mode. And, the draft picks, they did pick up several draft picks with their moves. 2 here, 1 in 21 and 1 in 23. So, they'll get a pick this summer. Where the Bulls are at right now, of course, the Bulls getting better now. That pick's going down. Which, in a way, for the Bulls, they're thinking, we get better. That pick doesn't mean as much to us. And so but we'll see what Orlando does with it. But they moved a lot.
I think as soon as I saw all the trades, I was like, the Magic are going into full rebuild mode now. For sure.
Well, I think we are going into rebuild mode. Obviously, I don't think there's much to debate there. But if we were going to go full rebuild, why did we keep Terrence Ross? And why did we keep Kim Birch? 2 veterans that are not old yet, but under contract, easily moved. I don't know what we did. This move particularly pissed me off. I didn't like it. I was prepared for us to make moves. I was actually rooting for us to move Gordon. I was fine with us moving Fournier. But I was not cool with us moving Vucevic. And obviously from this season, you can still be bad and have Vucevic on your team. Vucevic is not LeBron. He's not going to carry you to the playoffs. He's a good player. He's an all-star. He's not a great player, a transcendent player that carries your team to a whole bunch of victories. Our team is ravaged by injuries this year, which is why I think they decided to kick it in and finally, end this run, whatever you want to call it.
How long do you guys have Markelle Fultz under contract?
We just re-signed him in the offseason. So he's, I think, 4 more years.
All right.
So I guess we have now Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr., who were in the same draft. They went back-to-back picks. So if we wanted Wendell Carter, we could have had him because we drafted Mo Bamba a pick ahead of him. I don't know what to think about either one of them.
Yeah.
In the draft that we got Mo Bamba, obviously there was 3 big men that were marquee in the draft that year. DeAndre Ayton, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Mo Bamba. And before the draft, before the lottery, I said, as long as we don't end up with Mo Bamba, I'm cool. I don't care which big man we get. Let's just, I just don't want Mo Bamba because he looks goofy and not as goofy as in like facial features. I mean, like when he plays, he looks like he's uncoordinated sometimes, and like I just didn't like it. And of course, that's who we ended up with. But Bamba has some qualities. He's a shot blocker, and he shoots the 3 ball as a guy that's like 7'3" or whatever. So that's interesting. And then Jonathan Isaac would be our power forward going forward, but he's torn his ACL and isn't playing. Marco Fultz also tore his ACL and isn't playing. I don't know. I was very irritated about the Vucevic deal. Otto Porter's an expiring deal, so it takes a bunch of money off the books. So I'm not mad about that. The 2 first-round picks is fine. I don't think Chicago's going to get good enough this year where the pick is worthless. I don't think they're going to be a top 4 seed in the East. And really push the pick out of reach. I think it'll be a middle of the first-round pick. Low to mid-teens probably, which you can usually still get decent players at that point, and our pick should be really good because we're terrible. So there is that part of it. I thought we got a good amount for Vucevic. I'm not mad at that part of it. I just didn't want to move Vucevic, especially since we have him under contract for 2 more years. So that's where I was with it. But to continue the Magic also traded Aaron Gordon and Gary Clark to Denver, a Western Conference contender, for Gary Harris, R.J. Hampton, and a first-round draft pick. Drew, what did you think when you saw this?
I think we might have talked about this a little bit off air, but I think Aaron Gordon won't be. I mean, he'll be all right, but he's been hurt most of the time, so I don't know how much he'll really play for the Nuggets. And I think what you really get is a first-round pick out of the Nuggets, which it'll be a high pick, but at least you have another one late in the draft with. So you'll have 3 picks. Is it this year?
No, it's not till 2025.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I was about to say if you can get 3 in 1 year, then. So yeah, at least you have one down the road. Maybe if the Nuggets fall off somehow, I don't know. Never know. It's a couple years from now. Never know what can happen. You might be better. Never know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never mad to get first-round picks. It is a ways down the line, like you said. Kind of like we were talking about Houston earlier. Like, you really can't bank on it to be anything or everything or whatever. You just don't know because you don't know what the other team's going to look like at that point.
They could all still be there having a dynasty, or they all could be gone. You just never know.
Right, exactly. The part I liked about this trade for Orlando, first off, I was rooting for us to trade Aaron Gordon. I think I said this off air. I think Aaron Gordon has become insanely overrated in NBA circles and especially in the national media. Probably due to his dunk contest exploits, to be honest with you. Because what has he done on the court? This year he's averaging 13 and 6. He's not healthy very often, like Drew mentioned. So we're able to get Gary Harris, who is a nice two-way player from Denver, who also has injury issues, to be honest. But I think that was more of a contract thing. We needed somebody that made money in the deal, so because you got to match contracts in the NBA with trades. But I just want to point this out. Last year in the playoffs, Donovan Mitchell was going on his run of 50-point games. Well, that was against Denver, or at least part of it was. And he was torching Denver. He had multiple 50-point games. They were up 3-1. What happened? Gary Harris came back, and they won 3 straight games. And Donovan Mitchell didn't score him. Like, not that he didn't score at all, but I mean, didn't have any more big games. Because that's the type of defender Gary Harris is. He's a very, very good guard defender. He just struggles to stay healthy. I don't think that's a huge piece going forward for the Magic, but he's under contract next year as well. But the part I liked about it was we got R.J. Hampton, who is a rookie this year. He was the first-round draft pick for the Nuggets. He's the other kid that went to Australia with LaMelo Ball. R.J. Hampton, Cole Anthony, and LaMelo Ball were the top 3 high school kids in their class. We have Cole Anthony already. And then R.J. Hampton went to Australia, got hurt, and fell in the draft. I don't know that he'll be a superstar or anything, but I think he's going to be a good NBA player. So, and he's 19 years old. So I really liked us bringing him over, especially in the rebuild. We had plenty of time for him to develop and show what he can do. So I was really happy with us bringing over R.J. Hampton. Obviously, the first-round draft pick, nothing to shake a stick at. Gary Harris, like I said, was, I think, more contract filler than anything. And next year, he'll be in expiring contracts, so maybe we could trade him to a contender for even more pieces if he's healthy. Anybody else have anything to touch on the Aaron Gordon trade?
Just maybe a little bit on the Denver side.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we're looking at some of the stuff I was hearing today was they're talking about Gordon and Millsap kind of subbing in and out for each other. It's a little bit of a insurance policy, like Wade mentioned earlier, for Millsap. Or they even talked about Gordon might start and bring Millsap off the bench. So this, I mean, even though Aaron Gordon hasn't done great things, he is very athletic.
Mm.
So he may help Denver in the playoffs.
I didn't want to paint Aaron Gordon like he's trash or terrible. That's not what I was trying to say. I just thought he was overrated in the media. He does have some good qualities. He's super athletic. He's also a good defender. He's a good wing defender. He gets abused if you put him on big men a lot because he's not overly big. But he is a very good wing defender, and Denver is not a good defense, and they really miss Grant, who left and went to Detroit, who was their defender and athletic guy that would cut off Jokic and such. He brings that quality back. Essentially, I think they're replacing Grant with Aaron Gordon, which they're very similar players. Obviously, nobody knew it but Grant can score. He's averaging 25 this year in Detroit, which Aaron Gordon's never done. But not that they're going to ask him to score 25 in Denver. Jokic and Murray are their go-to guys there. But I personally think if Aaron Gordon can swallow his pride and just say, hey, I'm the 4th or 5th option, maybe even the 6th option on this team. I'm a role player. I'm going to play tough defense. I'm going to screen, and I'm going to roll and cut to the basket, and Jokic is going to find me, and I'm going to get some dunks, an average 6'8", maybe 10 points a game. But I'm going to be a really good defender and screener and hustle guy. He will be a valuable piece to this Denver team, and they, obviously they're very talented. But Aaron Gordon hasn't showed that he's willing to do that over his career. Now, being on a better team may help that, but Aaron Gordon goes through periods of time that he thinks he's fucking Kobe Bryant, where he calls for isolations, he dribbles like he's James Harden. He's out there dribbling around, trying to make moves, and then all of a sudden he's jacking up a stupid shot because the shot clock ran out and he never got by his guy. So if he can get rid of that and swallow his pride a little bit, he could be a very, very good role player for this Denver team. I just have questions on whether he'll do it or not.
Hopefully some of their veteran leadership step up.
Like Paul Millsap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have some words with him. Have him toe the line a little bit.
I think Gordon's just so butthurt about the dunk contest. He hasn't really let it go. I mean, I'm not blaming him. He probably should have won it, but we got to let it go, buddy. It's just a dunk contest.
He did get robbed twice.
Yeah. I agree. He did get robbed. I mean, he should have some awards there. But if the dunk contest is bleeding over into the regular season, you got a lot of issues going on in that brain of yours. But let's stay with the Magic here again. The Magic trade guard Evan Fournier to Boston, another Eastern Conference playoff team, for 2 second-round picks. They were able to do this because they had a large trade exception, so they didn't have to match contracts. I'll just go ahead and go first since, again, it's Orlando. But I figured we were going to trade Fournier. He's an expiring deal, and he's getting a little older. And he was having a good season, so I figured we would move him at a high point. I didn't expect us to get 2 second-round draft picks. I expected us to get something useful. Whether it was a young player, whether it was a first-rounder maybe, if we had to throw in, maybe a Kim Birch or something with it to get the first-rounder, so be it. I didn't expect... second-rounders are like filler pieces. Nobody gives a shit about second-round picks.
What year are they?
Yeah, you buy them for... Yeah, it's nothing. So, what did you say, Drew?
What year are they? Are they actually this year, or are they down the line again?
I don't have that written down because they were since I cared so little about them. I didn't care. I was like, they're second rounders. I was like, whatever. So that move kind of confused me. I don't know why. Actually, they announced later that Jeff Teague also came over in that deal, but we immediately waived him. He's signed for 1 year this year. And he made $2.5 million. So, and it's over halfway through the season, so I'm sure he's got maybe $1 million left on it. So we're gonna pay him the last $1 million, and he's a free agent right now. We immediately waived him. He didn't even come to Orlando.
Yeah, that's probably smart.
He's been terrible in Boston this year, so it is what it is.
Wasn't he play for the Hawks before then for a little while?
He started his career with Atlanta, and he was one of that 60-win team in Atlanta. He made the All-Star game.
Which, to be honest, I wasn't that impressed with him then. To be honest,
he was a good point guard for a while.
Good,
and
but
then he went to Minnesota.
He was decent in Indiana.
Yeah, and he was in Indiana for a little while, and then now he signed with Boston. We may have forgotten a team in there somewhere, but I think he's washed up personally. I don't even know how much of a contract he's going to get as a free agent. Like I said, he only got $2.5 million from the Celtics this year, so I don't know. I guess it was because we didn't want to take money back. We were just trying to get out from some of the contracts we signed, but I was very unimpressed. And we're talking about a guy that's averaging 19.5 points a game this year. He's a very good secondary ball handler. He runs the pick and roll really well as the initiator. So he has a role in this league. He's not a great defender, but he does try hard on defense. I don't know why we couldn't get a little bit more out of him, but I guess the market didn't come to fruition for us. But yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts when they saw this move?
I don't, from the Celtics standpoint, will it help some? Sure. Are they still going to be a disappointment? Absolutely. They're a disaster in my opinion. They have 2 all-star, maybe future superstar players, and they're, last time I checked, were 1 game below 500. That was a few days ago. I don't know what their record is at the moment, but
they're 21-23, so they're 2 games below 500.
Okay, well, I guess they lost in between then, but they have multiple huge problems. 1, their bench is terrible. 2, some of their younger players that they drafted recently all suck. Outside of Tatum and Brown.
And don't forget about Time Lord.
Don't diss on Taco Falls.
Yeah.
Number 1 All-Star vote getter.
And Tatum and Brown are obviously very good, very talented players, but they don't make anybody around them better. So they're just in kind of a hole, and Brad Stevens can't seem to figure it out. And I don't think Evan Fournier solves any of that. He gives them a little bit more depth, a little bit more shooting, but that wasn't really the problem.
Well, I don't want to turn this into a hot take episode because that's not really the thing we do here. But I have an interesting opinion on this Celtics squad. So I'm just going to throw it out there since we're talking about them. What was it? 2-3 years ago, Kyrie was there?
Yeah.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
2 years ago. They had Kyrie and
Gordon Hayward,
and Horford, and Marcus Morris, and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Smart. Yeah, Smart, who's still there.
It was Xavier Bradley there.
Not then. He was there before
Okay.
that. And that team imploded, and it was all blamed on Kyrie Irving, which, we all know Kyrie may have a screw loose. But it was all blamed on Kyrie Irving. Which I thought, and then Kyrie immediately leaves at the end after the season. But then I thought it was more interesting that the rest of the veterans on the team left as well. Horford left. Marcus Morris left. Terry Rozier demanded a trade. He's not a veteran, but Terry Rozier demanded a trade and was quickly traded. And then the year following that, Gordon Hayward opted out of a $38 million year to go sign with the Charlotte Hornets.
Hey, it's worked out.
I mean,
Yeah, it's worked out.
they're playing well. I'm not saying that, but I mean, they're not as talented as Boston. But he left and took less money this year to do it, although he got a longer term deal. But last year, by the way, all their issues were blamed on Gordon Hayward and his lack of staying healthy and so on and so forth.
And this year, it's getting blamed on Kemba Walker.
This year is being blamed on Kemba Walker. But here's my thing. There's one common denominator here who's been here through the whole thing and has never been blamed. What if it's Tatum and Brown?
I think it's Tatum, personally.
Matt-
And Brad Stevens has been there the whole time too.
That's also true.
You're the coach of all this. It's your job to control it, and he apparently can't do that. I think he's a good basketball coach. Don't get me wrong, but he's let things get out of hand on that team multiple times over the past 3, 4, or 5 years, however long it's been.
Well, you go straight from Ball State.
But Butler.
Butler, because he coached Gordon.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
coached Gordon.
Yeah, I would say he coached.
I mean, he's a great college coach. Coaching one of the premier franchises in the NBA. That's pretty overwhelming.
I mean, he's had some success.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
he's
he's
having
gone to the
trouble.
playoffs, but
What he did with that Isaiah Thomas team was
Oh, yeah.
crazy good. That's the thing. That's his expertise, his X's and O's.
Right.
He's a crazy good X's and O's guy. He draws his out of bounds plays, his plays off dead balls. All this stuff is crazy good. But here's my thing. This year, it's Tatum running ISO, Brown running ISO, Tatum running ISO, Brown. It's back and forth, ISO.
They don't have anyone else that has no talent to score. Kemba Walker's been a shell of himself, terribly inefficient. Gordon Hayward was their best, maybe all-around player, and he made people better. I know he got hurt a lot, but he's really good at playing within the offense, moving the ball around, hitting open shots, doing all the little things. And they don't have that. Horford is gone, and Tristan Thompson, you're not going to feed him the ball.
True.
I believe he just left, but the Theis guy couldn't score. They have all these young guys that come off the bench that can't score. There's a couple of those guys. Is it Williams? And there's another one. He has a really weird name. He's been there for a few years. They play them both like maybe 20 minutes a game, and you might look at the box score at the end of the game. They have a combined like 7 points. And it's like, what the hell were you doing? And you can watch them on defense just rotate wrong, miss on help defensive assignments. It's rough to watch.
you need to hear a good comparison to the Boston Celtics, the Green Bay Packers,
Why is that?
because they're always good during like the regular season and stuff. Once they get injuries, like Packers, but since they won earlier on in like the decade, like 2010, 2009, they always make like the finals, like the West NFC for Packers or the Eastern Conference for the Celtics, but they just can't get over the hump to get the championship. They're just missing something or they have problems going on. So I think that's a good comparison between them.
Well, and maybe your best player is a prima donna, Aaron Rodgers. What's his name? Tatum. Jason Tatum. I was about to say Channing Tatum.
Magic Mike in the house.
No, I tend to lean your way, Wade. I think I like Brown more than I do Tatum. I think Tatum has become severely overrated, although they signed him to this super long-term deal, so good luck, Celtics. He's going to be making $37 million in 25, 26. But here's my thing. You have two All-Stars that are averaging 25 a game. You should be better than you are right now. I don't care who else can't score on this team? The two of you ought to be able to get you to a middle seed in the East.
Well, this falls on Danny Ainge, what I'm about to say, which in the past he's done a decent job of, but he's failing right now, is when you have a superstar or two all-stars, the rest of the team needs to revolve around the few things that they're not good at. And they're not phenomenal playmakers. Like I said earlier, they don't make people better. Okay, like for an example, Dirk Nowitzki is one of the greatest players of all time. When they won the championship, they went and got Tyson Chandler to protect the paint because Dirk obviously isn't, the greatest shot blocker of all time. They went out and got a bunch of other feisty defenders to help him around the perimeter, and then they got people that could get him the ball in the right spot.
Jason
Kidd, yeah. How about that?
So they built that perfectly for Dirk. Yes, he's one of the greatest players ever, but everybody has things that they're not great at or that they have a little bit of a weakness. Even all the superstars and the all-time greats have an area or two, and that's where your role players step in. And their role players have the same problems as their superstars, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. They've won their 2 games under 500 due to just being able to have 2 all-stars score with people, pretty much, in my opinion.
In the beginning of the year, they were going to be one of the top 3 seeds in the East, supposedly, before all this other stuff happened.
Like you said in your last comment, they usually, over the past 3-4 years, have been making the second round of the playoffs or the East
I would say
Finals.
then last year, did they made the Eastern Conference Finals? Or was second one?
They lost to the Heat, I believe, in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah. And maybe not the year before that, but a couple years, they always lost.
They made the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
I think
I think they did. They lost to the Heat because I think the Heat beat the Bucks to get to the second round.
That's correct. Yeah,
Well, the Heat beat the Bucks earlier on.
Yeah,
I
honest,
do remember that.
yeah. I think they met the Celtics.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the
Lost.
Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think-
The Celtics beat Toronto to get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
And I think the Celtics were winning the series for a moment at least.
Yeah,
and I think they kind of blew it.
And then Bam blocked Tatum, and it just all went
momentum
downhill from
just
there.
Went out the window.
Because it was like the very end of the game.
Well,
so.
I personally think Jason Tatum, because of that very early run. Remember when Kyrie and Hayward both got hurt, and Tatum and Brown and Rozier
Horford.
and Horford made that run in the playoffs, and Jason Tatum dunked on LeBron, and it was this huge ordeal. Jason Tatum was vaulted way up into the ranks of the league, and I think I wouldn't even say just a little bit. We've severely overrated Jason Tatum at this point. He can be very, very inefficient. There's so many nights I go in and look at box scores, and he's 6 of 18, 7 of 23.
He's the king of the fadeaway a step inside the 3-point line.
Yeah.
That's the most inefficient shot in basketball, and that's his favorite shot.
And he shoots a ton of step backs. And what else does he do?
I think he's a quality defender. I don't think he's great.
Solid. Yeah, I don't think.
But he's
Brown
not-
is a very, very good defender.
Yeah.
Tatum is just a solid defender, I think.
He can score, and he's a decent defender, but there's no playmaking there.
Neither one of them are playmakers, like you said earlier. They don't make the guys around them better. That's what they miss out of Kemba this year. Kemba's averaging 18 a game this year, although kind of pretty inefficiently.
He's having a lot of bad shooting spells.
I just don't think his leg's right. He missed the first part of the season with a knee problem, and I just don't think he's right. But I think Fournier helps because he could be that other scorer like we're talking about. Fournier's averaging 19 and a half games. Fournier can, and he can play off of them because he's a very good shooter. That's his game. He's a shooter. So if he spots up off of those guys on their isolations, he's a knockdown shooter, unlike somebody Marcus Smart who can't shoot at all.
Don't let me start on Marcus Smart.
He's not a shooter.
Offensively, one of the dumbest shot takers I've ever seen.
And if he hits one,
It's over.
As a Celtics fan,
It's
you're
over.
pissed.
Because he's
Not
just jacking him
because
up.
you're like,
He's gonna chuck
he's
another
take
one.
He's gonna take 6 more now because he made one.
He's like, oh yeah, guys, I'm feeling it now. Pass me the
Like,
ball.
oh my goodness! Like, what are you doing? Although I do kind of like the Pritchard kid they picked up in the draft this year.
He is a decent young player on their team. I'll give you that.
But that all being said, I think Fournier will be a good piece for them. He's going to come off. I would assume he'd come off the bench because they really love Marcus Smart there. So I think Walker, Smart, Brown, Tatum. I don't know who starts as a center at this point. They traded Tice, who was. So I think Thompson probably starts, but Time Lord's minutes have been going up and up. So I believe that's their move, is they're trying to get Time Lord more and more minutes, maybe eventually in the starting lineup. We'll see.
I just don't think Fournier solves any of their big problems. I think their bench minutes will still be bad. They still don't have anybody to really make plays passing wise to help out the team. And
That's what I was going to say was Fournier ran the offense for Orlando a lot. I think offensively, he fills the Gordon Hayward role well.
you think he'll help enough to push them back up to where they were last year?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they're going to be a title contender or an Eastern Conference Finals contender. I just think they may get better than they are playing right now.
Reasonable.
I do think they're going to be a playoff team. They're the 8th seed right now. I think I see them finishing probably 7-6, maybe the 5 seed if they really pick it up.
Honestly, with the way they've been playing so far, yeah, I mean, if they get stuck in a play-in game, they might lose.
That is very true.
They might mess it up.
But then I can also see him picking it up and being a hard out through the whole playoffs, maybe making it. I can see him making it to the second round if they get it together.
2 All-Stars, and that's always a possibility, especially if Kimba kicks it back.
I would say if Kimba figures out what's going on.
I don't know. This year's been... Yeah. Anyway, we've been on them for a while.
Yeah, we can move on to another trade and get away from the Magic. The Raptors traded... I know, everybody thinks Kyle Lowry, but
Not Kyle Lowry.
They traded Norman Powell to Portland for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. We haven't heard from you for a while, Ray. What do you think about this trade?
I thought it was kind of weird that they didn't, trade Lowry, but I mean, maybe they're still trying to get in the playoffs.
Well, I think at this point, you might as well try.
Yeah.
You still have Lowry, you still have Siakam and OG Anunoby. Like, might as well at least try. I mean, do something with it.
And you're in the East.
Oh, yeah. Did you say Fred VanVleet?
Oh yeah, and Fred VanVleet.
Yeah.
I forgot about him. Yeah, absolutely.
And they're not bad players. I mean, they're pretty decent. Like Rodney Hood's pretty good.
Rodney Hood's like a heat check guy. Some days he comes in and he's going to help your second unit tremendously. And other games he's going to shoot you out of the game if you keep him in the game. So you just take him right back out. He's a heat check guy.
And I don't know Trent Jr. very well, but
He's good, I think.
really.
He's a young, useful player. He's a shooter. He's a little undersized at the wing, but he gets the job done. Personally, I thought Gary Trent Jr. is a younger version of Norman Powell.
I would say with a little more upside, maybe.
Potentially, I mean, because he's younger, I mean, he has potential to get more potential to get better.
So you got time to grow and come into form a little bit better.
I just want the Raptors just for fun to win the championship. So they're the Tampa Bay Raptors, the NBA champions.
Well, I mean, that would be a niche thing that would be interesting. I can't see it.
No, I'm saying it'd be fun just to say for the 1 year they're in Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Raptors won the championship. Like, okay, cool.
A good trivia question.
Yeah.
So how much longer does Lowry got on the contract?
He's done at the end of the season.
Oh, is he?
His contract,
Oh,
I mean.
okay.
He'll probably leave.
Do you think the fact that they didn't trade him was so much them trying to make a run, or do you think they just didn't get the package that they wanted?
I don't think they got the package that they wanted, but at the same time, I thought their asking price was ridiculous. You're talking about a guy that is in the last year of his deal. He's a rental.
Right.
If he still had years left on his deal, yes, he's a good quality player. You could probably get a decent amount for him. But they said the hang up with Miami was they wouldn't give up Tyler Hero.
And
Well, of course not. He's a second-year player has been a stud. Why would you give him up?
he'd have come out in public multiple times and said, "We're not trading Tyler Hero."
Yeah, why would I give you a 20-year-old on a rookie deal that is a stud for a 36-year-old who on the last year of his deal? Why would I do that?
Well, and he's making, $30 million a year?
30 mil.
So
Yeah.
for the salaries to match up, you've got to trade a lot. That was part of the Laker problem.
Mm-hmm.
Was they first of all they wanted Jalen Horton-Tucker, which the Lakers did not want.
Which
He's probably their best young guy.
But
then they had to stack so many other players with him. They had nothing left.
I heard the same thing.
I heard that too. And I think, well, I mean, I don't know this. Well, first off, if you let Taylor Horton Tucker, whoever the hell that is, hold up a trade for an all-star, I think you're a stupid-ass GM. But I think, personally, it had more to do with I have to trade Taylor Horton Tucker in like half my wing rotation
Right. Oh,
to
yeah,
match
they had to send
salary.
KCP and whoever else.
Yeah,
They
with
sent a bunch.
Schroeder. It was Schroeder,
Yeah,
KCP, and Horton Tucker.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, guys,
Especially with LeBron and AD out
LeBron
right
and
now.
AD are already out. We have to be able to put guys on the floor that can play basketball.
We've already dropped down to the 4 seed. We really don't
Caruso would
want
take them all.
AC Fresh.
I know Horton Tucker's like a cult favorite right now in LA, which is cool. I know those guys are cool. Caruso was that guy last year.
He still
Um,
is.
You
He
know,
still
Taco
loves.
Fall's that guy in Boston. You know, like it's cool, but you can't overvalue him because of that. Who the hell is Horton Tucker?
But he had a good preseason, and that's
Right.
when all the hype came in.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody said, well, it's this young guy that he's only 20.
Mm-hmm.
And that's second year in the league. And we were talking about second round draft picks. He was a second round draft pick that the Lakers bought.
Yeah.
They just went out and bought that pick from somebody because their GM or somebody liked him. And so, yeah.
Is that really that dude's name, Taco Falls?
Yes, Taco
Yes.
Falls.
He's also like
Like,
He's
7'5".
He's
I
7'6".
believe there's no S. It's Taco Fall.
Taco
I don't
Falls.
care. Everyone
Either
calls him
way.
Taco
His
Falls.
first name is Taco.
Oh my God.
Tacko.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
And he's what?
7'6". Went to the
Yeah.
University of Central Florida. About beat Zion and the whole
To
crew.
be honest, when the Celtics do throw him out there real periods of time, it does throw other teams off.
He
It
doesn't
does.
do
It's
terrible.
like, I don't think you can use him for long periods of time, but for a little stretch of minutes, he'll come up and block all the shots in the paint and throw everybody for a loop.
He's
He
got
does, but his foot speed is not fast enough to really play the pick and roll.
Yeah.
So you have to leave him around the paint. So if they put a stretch guy or a smaller guy in the game, it really messes him up. But you're right. It does throw teams for a loop, especially if you're like a team like LA who plays two bigs.
Right.
You know, so if you got Mark Gasol or last year it was Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee on the floor, they're not going out 3-point land. They ain't scaring nobody out there. So he can stand next to the paint with them. And then he's 7'6". He's got a standing reach for like 11 feet. And he's like, no, you're not dunking it today. Like, you know, it's a weird thing. But also kind of says something about today's NBA because that was not 7'6", but there was a 7-footer standing at the rim for the entirety of basketball until just now.
All
And
right.
now guys are all thrown off because there's a 7-footer in the paint. Like what?
Shit, it's not wide open.
Now, Ray, if you want to see a funky shot, look up Taco Shot.
Yeah. So here's my question for Portland. We talked about Toronto there. Did they just say, fuck it, we're going to try and outscore everybody? Because,
I think they said that a couple years ago.
Yeah, they've said that for like 3 or 4 years now.
I mean, you're adding another guard who can score, doesn't do a whole lot else. He's a little bit bigger than Gary Trent Jr., but it's not like he's a world-class defender or anything. He's not going to guard LeBron or George or Kawhi for you in the playoffs, which is the guys you got to go through to get where you want to go. So you're still playing Robert Covington and what's the kid they got from Miami?
Jones?
Derek
Derek
Jones Jr. Yeah, those guys that try and play defense. And Enes Kanter can't guard anybody, and
No.
Joseph Nurkic can't stay healthy. I do believe he made his reappearance last night.
Nurkic is really good, though.
Nurkic is good.
Yeah.
He's just never healthy.
Kanter is maybe the worst pick and roll defender in the league. He's so bad. It's unreal.
But he's a beast on the boards.
Oh, and he has good little moves in the paint, too.
He does, yeah.
He just defensively, all that value as an offense goes away when you watch him play defense. It's like, oh no. What happened, buddy?
All right, and then let's move on here. Now, I apologize. This next one's going to be very long, and a lot of it's going to be nonsense. But it's a 3-team trade where George Hill was traded from the Thunder to the 76ers. Tony Bradley and 2 second-round draft picks were returned to the Thunder. The Thunder send Terrence Ferguson to the Knicks for Austin Rivers, and the Knicks send some guy named Iggy Brasdilix to the 76ers. So most of that is a bunch of nonsense. But the important thing is, I guess, here is that George Hill ended up with the 76ers.
Yeah.
Which I think was their consolation prize for not getting Kyle Lowry. They realized early on that the asking price was ridiculous. They were also competing against the Heat and the Lakers. So I think they just said, forget it, we'll just go get George Hill, who is not as good as Kyle Lowry, but he's a veteran ball handler and quality outside shooter, which around Embiid you can't have enough of, or Simmons for that matter.
I'd say more Simmons than Embiid.
So what did you guys think when you saw George Hill end up in Philly? Uncle Doug?
Yeah, well, like you said, it just gives another shooter around Simmons and Embiid. The 76ers are trying to make some improvements. They're trying to move forward. And, from the Thunder side, I guess what they end up with Austin Rivers out of this deal, who we've seen move around several places.
Austin Rivers and Tony Bradley, who since Embiid's been out has been playing really well. Tony Bradley, I know a bunch about him because he played in North Carolina. He played 1 year at Carolina, I don't know at this point, 4 or 5 years ago. But he's a traditional big. He's a back-to-the-basket big who was big and bulky and slow. He played really well in college, but then he came to the pros and nobody wanted him because nobody in the NBA plays that way. He's lost a bunch of weight. He's slimmed down a lot. He's moving a little bit better. So maybe he has something to do in the league now. He's always been a very good shot blocker. But my point is, since Embiid got hurt, Tony Bradley's been starting and playing very well for Philly. But that and Austin Rivers, who they got back.
Yeah. To be 100% honest, I could care less about what the Knicks and Thunder do.
You put some respect on that Knicks name. They're the 4 seed.
I would say the Knicks are surprising everyone.
Nah, I still don't care.
You're going to get banned. Did you just hear
we don't want
that Dolan kicked somebody
the
else
shirt.
out of MSG for wearing a shirt that said ban Dolan?
Yeah, I just read that there today.
Dolan has issues, man.
Oh, he does.
He's got like a
problems.
Napoleon complex, a pinhead complex. I don't know what his deal is, but
You're going to get a letter in the mail, Wade. You're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell him to fuck off, too.
And there's our explicit.
Yeah. I've only cussed twice. We're doing good for over an hour. Anyway, I think George Hill helps. I think it's a solid move. They're still, I think, going to be in the same position. I think it's a 3-team race in the East at the top, unless the Heat show me something with these additions in the latter half of the season. I still think it's Bucks, Sixers, Nets. I think it helps a little bit. The Bucks also, made a little move to try and make them a little better. And obviously the Nets made a huge move a little early in the season. So it helps. We'll see what happens. I think they're still I think they'll probably still make the Eastern Conference Finals, in my personal opinion. I don't know if George Hill pushes them over the edge, but we'll see.
Drew, you have anything?
No, not much. Wade basically said it was and I think my dad. They're basically consolation for not getting Kyle Lowry, and Wade said they're up there with the 1 and 3. They're just trying to see they don't play those teams, both of them. They're just trying to play one of them to get to the final. So they're just basically fighting for 1 instead of 2 or 3. So that's play 2 of them to get to the final instead of 1.
I agree. I think that's the important thing in the East right now. Those 3 teams all want the 1 seed because the 2 and 3 will have to play each other
And then go play the other one.
and then have to go play the 1 seed. So, yeah, I think they're trying to not have to do that, like you said. That makes a lot of sense. I have an interesting piece of information about after this trade because 2 second-round draft picks also went to the Thunder. That means over the next 7 drafts, the Oklahoma City Thunder have 34 draft picks.
With
17 first-rounders and 17 second-rounders.
Over how many years?
7.
Holy cow.
You got to think of all the players they've shipped off in the
yeah.
past few years, like big players.
Yeah, because they got 6 draft picks for Paul George.
yeah,
They got rid of Westbrook.
And they
too.
traded
Chris
they got-
Paul.
They got some for,
Chris Paul.
Yeah.
And also, I think they got a draft pick from Denver for Grant. They get. I mean, like they've moved a lot.
Probably Schroeder for the Lakers this year probably got. Was he a free agent or was he got traded?
I don't remember.
And what about Adams? They moved him too.
To New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Did they trade?
34
Did they trade Ibaka 3-4 years ago?
to Orlando. Yeah,
Was it a trade though?
It was a trade before Oladipo and Sabonis.
Oh, didn't they trade Oladipo after that?
Did y'all trade for Oladipo, or did he leave and go there?
I think we traded.
Yeah, see,
Oh.
there's more picks right there.
Yeah.
Like yeah. I'm just trying to think of all the good players they had. I think they
I'm trying
traded
to think
all
who
of
we
them.
traded for though.
I don't know.
I don't either.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, Oladipo's played on 4 teams since then, so who knows?
Yeah, 3 this year now.
Yeah. The Knicks, Austin Rivers was sent home and wasn't playing anymore. Even though he was playing well at the beginning of the season, I guess he got into it with Thibodeau, and Thibodeau was like, "Pack it up, bro." So I don't think they really gave up anything. I don't even know who this other guy that gave up is. This Iggy guy. I'm not sure. No offense to that guy. I just don't know who he is.
Who's the Knicks point guard right now? Is it Derrick Rose?
Derrick Rose and Elfrid Payton. But then they got Terrence Ferguson from the Thunder. The Knicks did a very athletic wing that can't shoot.
So you got 3 guards that can't shoot.
Yeah,
Alfred Payton sure as hell ain't shooting the ball.
no.
Rose might
Oh
get
my
you.
gosh.
Everest, yeah. Rose can shoot as a little. Not great, though. I might be nice by saying a little. From 3-point line, anyway.
So yeah, not a ton going on there. Just George Hill helping out the rotation, I think, in Philly. The next thing is the Kings trade Bielitsa. I can't pronounce Bielitsa's first name, but he's a stretch for. He's been around the league a little while. To Miami for Mo Harkless and Chris Silva. So they essentially replaced Kelly Olynyk with another tall white guy that can shoot threes. So again, they brought in a shooter. We kind of touched on it earlier. They have quite a few players in the rotation that can't shoot. So bringing in a big that can shoot, I think, is helpful. And they turned Olynyk into Oladipo. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is kind of a win for them.
I would say so, yeah.
I think the Heat have the opportunity now and the talent to attempt to get back to where they were last year. I don't think it's going to happen. But, like we said, what are they, the 7th seed right now? Correct? Isn't that what we said earlier?
I think it's 7, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were 4
They got off to a really bad start, and I think
they're the 7th seed.
they're being kind of fired up as they expected to have similar results to last year, and I think they've made a lot of good moves, and they can put themselves in the mix with those 3 other teams that me and Drew just hit on in the last trade if they put it all together.
I don't expect Atlanta to continue this hot streak much longer, and
No.
they'll fall apart again.
Yeah.
So I think Miami will fall out of the playoff picture here, or at least out of the top 8, I think, and Miami will at least vault them. As much as I think the Knicks story is fun, I also don't expect them. They might be a playoff team in the East, but I don't expect them to be a top seed
I don't
or-
expect them to get out of the first round, probably.
or the Hornets. So I think Miami can pass all of those teams.
Yeah.
And probably be the 4 or 5 seed.
I said they've been playing good lately. I think they'll come back together. They'll come back and make it, I think.
But the one thing I will say about Miami is at this point they're deep as hell. They can pretty much go way deep into their bench and pull good rotation guys. Really, Udonis Haslem is the only guy that doesn't really need to play.
He's the team leader.
Yeah, he is. So I think it's a fair trade. Mo Harkless wasn't playing anyway. Chris Silva is a career 12th man, so I mean, not missing anything there. Then this actually was the first trade of the trade deadline, so I don't know why I have it written on here last, but the Cavs trade JaVale McGee to Denver for Isaiah Hartenstein and 2 second-round draft picks. I really liked this move for Denver.
Yeah.
They didn't have much in the way of a backup center. Their backup center was this Isaiah Hartenstein kid. None of us know who the hell he is. It's his third year in the league. But they really miss the Plumlee kid that played behind Jokic the last few years.
Mason? I don't know. There's like three of them.
There's three of them, and I don't know which one's which.
Yeah.
But the Plumlee guy was very good for them for 3 or 4 years there. McGee is not the same type of player, but Jokic is not a shot blocker. And unlike Grant, neither is Gordon. So Millsap's the only guy that ever blocks any shots, and he's upper 30s. So I think bringing in a shot blocker like McGee, you're not going to ask him to do anything major. Probably play 15 minutes a game, block shots, rebound, play tough, use your fouls. Those types of things, a role we know he can do for a title contender because we saw him do it for Golden State. We saw him do it for the Lakers. He's done it. The guy's got 3 damn rings. He's not even any good. I think this was a good pickup for them. It brings some toughness to their front line, which they don't really have. It brings shot blocking they don't really have. And they didn't really give up anything to do it. Again, 2 seconds. Who cares?
We talked about this earlier that people buy them all the time. So.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is Denver is one of the best teams in the league. They just made the Western Conference Finals last year. They lost Grant and Plumlee, like you said. And this year, and last year, their biggest problem is defense. So they went and got a super athletic, good wing defender that can rebound. And now they have one of the best shot blockers in the league to at least back up Jokic. So I think they had a great trade deadline. I think they're going to make a big push to, again, like I said with the last one, to get back to where they were last year, if not advance. So,
of all the contenders, Denver definitely had the best deadline.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Not all the contenders even made moves. They just kind of sat around.
I would say majority of the contenders didn't make moves.
Yeah.
Miami and Denver are the only 2 teams you could consider a contender that even made a move. I mean, the Lakers didn't do anything. The Clippers didn't do anything. The Nets didn't do anything.
What else can the Nets do?
I would say
The Nets,
Nets
wait,
are si-
Question, though. For what little they had to give up to get McGee, why didn't the Nets?
I thought the same thing.
Are they waiting for the buyout market?
I think so.
Andre Drummond just went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on that, the buyout market, because there's some interesting names out there. A couple more came right before we started.
I think that's what they're doing.
So the buyout market will be interesting, but the buyout market, there's a lot of competition. If you'd have told me that all the Nets had to do was give up some scrub in 2 seconds to get McGee, I'd have been like, do that quick.
Yeah, no kidding.
And give up DeAndre Jordan. He sucks. God, he's
They
terrible.
want Lob City back together, Wade. Blake Griffin can dunk again.
Yeah.
He's diving on the floor for loose balls. He's
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, he didn't dunk for 2 years, and 6 minutes into his career in Brooklyn, got a dunk.
James
What
Harden
did I
got
tell
him
you
ball,
guys? What did I tell you?
But
Which this episode might come out before Ray called it.
that's true. But one last trade here. Rajon Rondo was traded from Atlanta to the Clippers for Lou Williams.
There's your Hawks downfall right there.
Very well could be. They have the worst bench in the league. Atlanta does. So I think Lou Williams has the potential to help that at least.
Oh, yeah.
He's a terrible defender and has been the worst playoff performer in the league for the last 3 years. So that he won't help them there if they do make the playoffs. But he should help their bench scoring because that's what he does. He's instant offense. But he's not played well this year and has essentially been benched in Clipperland. So I thought they would have traded him a long time ago, especially after Harrell was gone. But they hadn't. So I wasn't surprised they moved him. I was surprised at how little they got from him because they had to throw in a second. So they had to trade Lou Williams in a second to get Rajon Rondo, which Rajon Rondo's on a terrible contract. So I was a little confused by that. But I think Rajon Rondo is pretty washed. Although last year in the playoffs, he was like the third best player in the league.
So, yeah, he balled out.
Playoff Rondo is a real thing, bro.
Apparently it is because not only did he play better, but he shot 40% from 3 on like 3 attempts a game. So
He was-
it's
Which
ridiculous.
he's never done.
He shoots 20% from the
Right.
3 in his career.
But
so
he'll just
His,
flick
his
it on.
defense also comes out of nowhere in the playoffs like it used to when, like 10
Yeah.
years ago. He was locking people up in the playoffs last year.
Forget the regular season, but he can play the play. Oh, he played the
Well,
playoffs last
Yeah.
year.
Here's what the Clippers need. Well, they need a couple of things, but the biggest problem was they, kind of similar to the Celtics, just to a lesser degree, when they get up on teams, they don't have someone who can control the game, slow it down, and get the ball to George and Kawhi in the right spot. Instead, Kawhi and George have to be the person that bring, because Beverly is not a point guard. Like, okay, he
he's
plays
not.
point guard. He's
Because
not a
short.
playmaker.
He's short, so he plays there, but he's not
Yes.
a point guard.
Yes, perfectly
He's an
said.
agitator.
And this is what now in the playoffs they can do their thing, get the lead, and what they're prone to do over the past year and a half is they blow some of these leads for no reason. Now they have a veteran, pure point guard that will control the pace, set people up, and help them finish out the game. And Kawhi and George can go back to doing what they're used to doing, which is not being the main ball handler, being the wing player. Obviously, they're the two best players, obviously. And you lose Lou Williams, who did nothing but get on my nerves the past couple of years. Because, like you said, they're like, oh, he's amazing. We should name the Sixth Man of the Year award after him. He won it 4 times now?
Something like that.
And then he goes in the playoffs, and they put him in a pick and roll every time, and they score 38 points on him, and he's like 2 for 16. And it's like, get this guy off the damn floor. Like, it's just, yeah.
Oh, I agree. And they also, Kawhi, not as loudly as Paul George, but Kawhi has now complained about Doc Rivers. And his big complaint was he doesn't want to initiate offense. He wants to be part of the offense. He doesn't want to initiate the offense, which is what
That's
Doc
right.
Rivers had him do. So that does fit that role, as we all know Rajon Rondo is willing and able to initiate your offense for you.
He's been phenomenal at it. I mean, that's his calling card.
But I think the biggest thing Rajon Rondo brings is leadership, because they have none. Kawhi and Paul George seem to be the anti-leaders of the league.
We've hit on this before.
Ibaka is not that guy. So I think Rondo brings leadership. Every place he goes, his teammates love him. Not necessarily his coaches, but or Ray Allen, but his teammates love him. He's not afraid to get on guys. Last year, he famously told LeBron to pull his head out of his ass and quit being a prima donna. So
If he tells LeBron that, he'll tell anybody that.
right. So I assume he will be able to tell Kawhi and Paul George that.
Well,
Now,
I mean-
how they handle it, I have no idea. But
Yeah, we'll see if playoff P takes it bad or good.
I mean, Rondo started his career getting, yelling back and forth with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. So I don't think going forward he ever really cared. It's literally how he started his career.
That's very true.
So,
And he was the guy that stepped up to Jimmy Butler and D Wade in Chicago and told them to quit mistreating the young players.
and also balled out in the playoffs randomly that year, too.
That was another big playoff Rondo year. So I think he does bring something, even if he doesn't play well. He continues not to play well. I think he brings something important to the Clippers. They're going to pay for it because he's on a nice contract for himself, and I do believe he has 2 more years on that contract. So
Are there any options or anything on there?
I would have to look.
Is he really on a 3-year deal?
I believe he signed a 3-year
It's like
deal.
3.
Really?
Was it?
Boy, the Lakers didn't resign
They don't want to sign him for 3 years. This is,
He wanted long term.
wasn't it a lot of money too? I mean, not a lot, but like a lot for
I think
him.
it was similar to the Augustine deal, but I'm trying to look here.
Wow, I didn't know it was 3. I thought maybe like 2 was like an option in there or something. But 3.
It's a lot for old.
Maybe I misspoke. I'm looking though.
But I think it would definitely help the Clippers out having a floor manager.
No, it's just 2 years. So next year, and he's making 7.5 this year and 7.5 next year. So $15 million over 2 years.
My point was, I think he fills their biggest need at the moment. So I think
Oh, yeah.
He steps up in the playoffs instead of steps back.
they got someone that can distribute. Just distribute.
A leader, veteran.
And it may take Reggie Jackson out of the rotation, which is needed.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. You knock out Reggie Jackson and Lou Williams in one swing, you're good.
Yeah.
You're doing good things. And Montrezl Harrell left, who was the one who got abused by Jokic
And
when
he's a
they
head
lost. Yes.
Because they said the Lakers shopped him because the Lakers are fed up with him.
I did see that. They were shopping Harrell. But because last year, when they collapsed against the Nuggets, they kept leaving Harrell in the damn game for him to score, but then Jokic was just destroying him, and he wasn't scoring that much. When they had Zubac on the bench, he was a good defender and a good rebounder, and could have guarded, obviously not shut him down, but guarded Jokic, unlike Harrell. So now we got Lou Williams gone, Harrell's gone, Reggie Jackson might be out of the lineup. Things are looking up.
And I would say this. The Clippers are not grabbing headlines like last year. Last year there was all these headlines. They're going to this and this. They're not having any headlines this year, but they're playing well.
Yeah, they're the third seed.
Yeah,
West.
they're the third seed in the West. They're playing well. They're not talking shit, and in the media every day. I think when playoff time rolls around, as long as they're healthy, they may make a nice run in the playoffs, and there's going to be a lot of people going, "Oh shit, where'd this come from?" Like we didn't hear about the Clippers all year. Because let's not forget, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are good.
Well, they were up 3-1 last year, but then a couple of them, well, not Kawhi, but some of the other players choked. And
Now, I don't think if the Lakers are healthy, I think the Lakers are still the favorites in the West, regardless of the moves Denver made or what Rondo does for the Clippers. I still think the Lakers are the favorites as long as LeBron and Davis come back and are still LeBron and Davis.
how many teams they have to go through to get there, though.
But I just heard this morning that Davis is out at least 2 more weeks, and LeBron's out 4 to 6.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So
Pretty iffy.
they may be in the play-in tournament when they get back. Which, if you're the Clippers or the Nuggets or the Jazz, you're like, yes, make those old veterans play a whole ton of games to get to me. That would be...
Well, the playing games, one of them will be the 8th seed. They're going to play the Jazz first round.
Here's what this is my personal opinion. What helped LeBron last year was the pandemic. He got this large break at the end of the season, and then because in the past few years, you can tell when he gets to the finals, there are moments where he's worn out and he's worn down. After he plays a full season and he shows at least moments of wearing down with all the mileage. And I think what happened last year was they got through like 3/4 of the season. The pandemic hit. He gets this long break, gets fully rejuvenated, and then comes back, plays himself back into shape at the end of the regular season in the bubble, and then just went crazy again in the playoffs because this year he's not going to have that, obviously. So I think we're going to see similar to
we
what.
hope not, anyway.
Yeah. So they're going to go far, but
No, we hope not as far as, like, we don't have to cancel the season again.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want to do that again. Wait all the way till July.
So we're going to see what he has in the tank.
Well, and you have to take into consideration, too, how short the offseason was this year,
That too.
which is going to have a huge effect on guys like LeBron that played in the finals, that played a lot of minutes, and are older. Some of those teams that made it to the last couple rounds of the playoffs and had older players, I think you're going to see them tail off as this season goes on. It was a short.
I think that's part of the problem with the Heat at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
They're probably still
They were
tired.
all exhausted, and they started
Oh, yeah.
terrible. Didn't Denver start off slow too?
Denver
And
did
they were in the
too,
Western
yeah.
Conference Finals.
Denver played very poorly.
I think honestly the bubble and the quick restart hurt Anthony Davis more than it did LeBron.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Because even when Anthony Davis was playing, he was not putting up Anthony Davis type numbers. He was averaging like 18 and 8. It wasn't like he was out there giving 27 and 12 like he did last year.
Yeah.
It was different. So now I want to switch gears a little bit. Go around the room here. What do we think the trade deadline did to the playoff push in general? Both sides, East, West. What changes do you think are going to affect what teams make the playoffs? Wade?
Out of all the trades, I think the teams overall most impacted positively anyway. Sorry to your Magic. But I think the Heat, that I hit on earlier, have a chance to vault up the standings if everything goes correctly. I really like the Denver moves. I think that will help solidify them as a top-tier West Conference team. And I think Rondo and George Hill were both good, helpful moves on already really good teams. And I think Rondo is a little more important than George Hill. But those are the ones that stuck out to me.
All right, Ray?
Before I say anything, J.J. Redick went to the Mavericks. Right?
Oh, I forgot that one. I'm sorry. I didn't have that written down over here. I apologize. Yes, J.J. Redick and Marco Melli went to the Mavericks for James Johnson and
Iwundu for
Wes Iwundu, yes.
for cash and a pick or something.
So, essentially, two scrubs got traded to the Pelicans. I don't know why they did that. For two knockdown shooters to put around Darko. Oh, my goodness. Luka Doncic. I said Darko.
Old Luka.
I do think JJ had been losing playing time.
He was not playing at all.
Yeah.
Right, I think he's been hurt, hasn't he?
Well,
Didn't he have some kind of procedure on his foot.
Oh, he might have.
he did, but it was one of those quick procedures. You know what I'm talking about? That like it was in and out. He was only going to miss like 2 or 3 games. But his lack of, he's playing for Stan Van Gundy,
Right.
who when he was in Orlando refused to play JJ Redick because he does not a good defender. Which is why I think they brought in Wes Iwundu and James Johnson into New Orleans because they're both very good defenders, even though they can't score. Especially Wes Iwundu can't score at all. He played for Orlando for 3 years. So I think they did that to help bring in the defensive chemistry there. But I think putting shooters around Luka. Damn, I can't think. Sorry. Around Luka is a great move. We saw what it did for Seth Curry, or what Seth Curry did for them, however you want to put it. And bringing in Josh Richardson this year has been a complete flop. They lost a lot of shooting there. And Millie is a 6'10" shooter. So they can play him next to Porzingis, sub him in for Porzingis, and he could be another stretch 4 or 5 for them. I think this is a really good move for the Mavericks. I don't think it vaults them into like championship contention, but I think it helps solidify their playoff contention.
Yeah. And if Luka can get hot and somehow Porzingis can stay healthy, they could be a hard out for anyone, really.
Luka's playing really, really well, and he seems to be in shape now, unlike he was at the beginning of the season. If, which is a huge if, Porzingis stays healthy, they are a hard out for everybody in the playoffs. Because they play 5 out, so they spread you thin as hell, and nobody in the league can stay with Luka. Luka is putting up huge numbers, and you can't put a shot blocker in front of him because Porzingis is standing in 3-point lane. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, you can have the best shot blocker in the league. Miles Turner even. If he's standing 30 feet from the basket with Porzingis, he can't block your shot. And now it's not like Damian Lillard or somebody who's just blowing by you. Luka's bodying you up, using his body and getting to the rim and wearing you out and picking up fouls. He's doing crazy things out there, and putting shooters around him just makes him even that much more dangerous.
I was saying he can pass the ball too. He's having triple doubles, if not every night.
Yeah, he's gonna break the triple double record if he keeps this up. So thank you for reminding me of that, Ray. I appreciate it. So anyway, back to what did you think it did to the playoff picture?
I think the Heat gets vaulted a little bit. The Bulls, I don't know what they're really doing. I think grabbing who they grab is nice for the future, but they're probably going to stay where they're at so they can get somebody else to complement the rest of the team for next year. The Clippers did a good thing with Rondo. We'll see what the Raptors can do. The 76ers are the big asterisk with George Hill. He was really, really a good point guard with Indiana. He never went to that spot like everybody thought he was at Tony Parker level. He never got to have a shadow. But, I mean, he can come off the bench with the 76ers and play point and get that bench crew organized and where they need to be. The East is turned into the wild, wild East because you really don't know what's going to happen after all this trade's going on. But the Heat's looking real good. 76ers has got a nice squad looking right now. But you still got people who did trades months and months ago that you got to kind of look out for. You still got Indiana out there that haven't been playing particularly well, but they're starting to look better and better after everything's going on.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, Ray. You guys have fallen to the 9 seed, the Pacers, I mean. They announced T.J. Warren is now out for the season. But you did get Karis LeVert healthy now,
Right.
who is playing. So how do you feel going forward for the Pacers? Are they going to make the playoffs? Are they going to be in the play-in? What's going on there?
I mean, we're looking better now, but after this Pistons game they just played, LeVert looked good, and Miles Turner looked like total garbage. He had no points. It was like 2 blocks, 6 rebounds, stat line. So, I mean, everybody else is getting to where they need to be, and Miles Turner just looking worse and worse every day. Maybe we should have probably shopped him harder, but I don't know. I mean, we're going to make the playoffs, definitely. But the big question mark is Miles Turner going to show up for any more games this year?
I just think either Sabonis or Turner has to go for y'all to completely unlock whichever one of them you keep. I think playing two bigs that are not, super athletic, moving around like a Porzingis or whatever, is hard to do in today's league. Drew, what did you think of the playoff positioning?
I think it helps the Clippers. It might help them get past the Suns. I don't think anyone's going to catch the Jazz, but I think they might vault them past the Suns, get up to the 2. I think George Hill might help the Sixers sustain the 1 seed. I'm not going to say it indefinitely gets them there, but I think it helps them keep it because they have the lead right now, I believe, by 2 games, I think. I think the Bulls will probably sneak into the playing games with the moves they made. Just sneak in. I think the Heat will have benefited the most in the Eastern Conference. I think they'll vault up to 4 or 5 in the middle of the pack in the East. And I think the Denver Nuggets are the best coming out of the West with some of the moves they made. I think they'll make a run here towards the end and get higher. They'll probably pass my Lakers, to be honest.
Well, I think a lot of teams are going to pass the Lakers right now, at least, just because of the injuries. Anyway, Uncle Doug, what you got?
All right, well, like everybody else has been saying, I think the Heat, best moves in the East. Denver, the best moves in the West. 76ers and Clippers, good teams in each division, made smart moves to step up a little bit. Overall, I think maybe Chicago, maybe not for the playoffs this year, but long term, picking up the center from Orlando, good move for the Bulls.
Vooch.
I know you're not happy. And I'm kind of wondering why the Nets and the Lakers let them sneak in and steal JaVale McGee for next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to make big moves if you're in their position, but a move like that could have helped either one. And you kind of wonder why.
Well, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I think Denver made some really smart moves. They're probably the best moves of all. Miami made some good moves. And Philly and the Clippers made a smart move apiece that I think will be good for them. Not fantastic or great, but good for them. But I think the team that solidified their playoff push the most is Chicago. They were a team that we didn't know if they were going to make the playoffs. I think they're a for sure playoff team now. I think Vooch and Levine are going to be a deadly pick and pop combo. Vooch has been running pick and pop and successfully with trash point guards for 8 years in Orlando. So I think with Levine, a super dangerous scoring threat, that pick and pop option will be great. And I think they'll be a playoff team for sure. Not that I'm saying they're a contender, but I mean just a for sure solid playoff team. And then adding Aminu to an already solid rotation up front with Thaddeus Young and Lauri Markkanen. I think it helps them tremendously. But anyway, I think those are all good. I agree. I don't know what the other contenders were doing with the McGee stuff. So, yeah. But the last thing I want to touch on before we get out of here, because this is getting really long on us, is the buyout market. LaMarcus Aldridge has been bought out. Andre Drummond has been bought out. Gorgie Zhang has been bought out. I'm forgetting somebody. I already mentioned earlier, Jeff Teague has been bought out. So there are at least big men out in the buyout market. There are plenty of contenders looking for big men. The Lakers, Brooklyn, maybe the Clippers. I don't know. Boston. They said Boston has already talked to Andre Drummond. And they said Drummond doesn't seem to be interested in the Lakers or Brooklyn because he wants to go somewhere where he has a legit role offensively. So they said the Knicks may be the favorite for Drummond. They are a playoff team, so I mean he would get to see the playoffs. I don't think that makes him a contender by any means. But I want to ask everybody a couple of questions. First, where do you want these guys to go? And second off, where do you think would be best for fandom? Like, what would make the best place for them to go for us to watch in the playoffs? By the way, they said Miami is the favorite for LaMarcus Aldridge. Good Lord.
I will see Aldridge sneaking in Indiana, but that's just a biased pick. I mean, he's not super speedy or anything because we got a pretty young, fast team, but he'd be a nice, pickup to go throw down there in front of Miles Turner and put maybe Miles Turner on the bench.
Aldridge is a knockdown jump shooter. He blocks a few shots, but he's become pretty terrible in pick and roll because he can't move his feet anymore. He's getting pretty up there in age. I think he's 36. I think there's a spot for him. I don't know where it's at. Yeah, go ahead, Ray. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're fine. But Miles Turner's really athletic, but he just can't put up numbers. LaMarcus Aldridge, he can put up some numbers. And that's what we're really kind of killing us down low is we got shooters all the way around, and all we got is a guy that can block shots. But, I mean, seriously. So we're kind of looking for somebody down low, and maybe we'll sneak in and grab him.
All right, fair enough. Drew, what are you thinking?
I think I can see LaMarcus Aldridge maybe going with the Mavericks, sneaking in maybe there, maybe a
I
little
didn't
bit.
think about that. That's good.
I think a good one if Porzingis is hurt, maybe have him and Luka run the show. I think that could work out pretty well for
I
him.
mean, he could be Porzingis' insurance and backup because he's a knockdown, outside shooter.
Yeah, but he'd be able to shoot. He's not taking up space in the lane if Luka needs to drive or something.
That's very
That'd be
true.
a nasty little team. Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't move as well on defense as Porzingis, but offensively he'd fill that role fine. Yeah, that's a good one, Drew.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Uncle Doug, you got any thoughts?
Well, I think it'd be interesting if Drummond ended up in Brooklyn. Give them the center that they could have had. I'm going a little bit like Ray. I'd kind of like to see Aldridge only instead of going to Indiana, maybe going to LA.
Oh,
Just in case Davis's injury is more long term than we think. He might give them another option there. Obviously not as young, but might help out some there.
Wade?
Well, I think the three of the top tier teams, I think would all be an interesting scenario. Clippers, Lakers, Nets. To see Aldridge try to get a title and be on a great team would be cool. But one that kind of stuck out to me. What about a reunion with the Blazers? You said
yeah.
That'd be good.
They're good already. Obviously, they're really good. Nurkic, you said, always gets hurt. Kanter is just a walking defensive collapsement. I mean,
Be another scorer to
And
outscore
he'd spread
everybody.
the floor unlike Cantor and Nurkic.
yes, I think
want
he'd be.
Ashley to finish his career and go back home. Yeah.
Go
Well, I will say this. The relationship between Portland and LaMarcus Aldridge ended very poorly. But in an interview, I think 2 or 3 years ago, LaMarcus Aldridge said he made a promise to Damian Lillard that after his time in the Spurs was over, he would come back and play with him.
Oh, there go the
Now,
Pacers.
whether it's this year or not, I can't say. That was years ago. Like I said when I saw that. But yeah, I didn't think about that until you just said that way. But that would be a nice pickup for Portland, I think,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think so.
because Cantor clogs up the lane for Lillard and McCollum. So bringing over a guy that can stretch the floor would be nice.
Yeah.
I think Aldridge has a fit a lot of places. They said Miami's the favorite. They do need shooting in Miami, so I think that's nice. I like the Portland idea. I really like the Denver idea, or Dallas idea.
Dallas,
Sorry. So those are all great mixes. I don't want him on my favorite team because it doesn't make sense for us. So that's fine. it might make sense to the Clippers. Ibaka has done good for them by stretching the floor. Aldridge could do the same thing, but I do like Zubats. Zubats is a good defender, rebounder, rugged guy down low. I really like him too. So I don't know. Drummond, I thought Brooklyn as well. I thought that would be the best place for him, but with his I want to have a good offensive role thing, that really limits him.
I would say no one really wants him for offense. They want him for shot blocking
And rebounding. Yeah,
when you shoot like 36% from the free throw line, you're a liability out there.
Well, how can you play at the end of the game if you can't shoot free throws?
Yeah, that's true too. So maybe he goes to the Knicks. They said another dark horse for Drummond would be the Celtics, but how much is Tatum and Brown going to want to let him play offensively? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, as of right now, the Celtics are beating the Bucks tonight.
Are they really?
Yeah, by like 10, I think.
Nobody brought up Gorgie Jang. Gorgie Jang's a nice defensive big guy. He blocks a lot of shots, plays tough. He doesn't score a bunch. I think he could be a sneaky good pickup for a lot of these contender teams we just brought up. A lot of them, Gorgie Jang could be a good pickup for them. Not going to come in and play 30 minutes a night or anything, but I think that could be nice for anybody. Anybody else got any other thoughts on the buyout market?
No.
Not really.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that kind of ends our super, super long episode. We're closing in on 2 hours here. So I appreciate your listen. If you made it this far, I appreciate it even more. And that's our night. Sports the Nemo way.